I'm doing something a little different today, which is a live in the field recording of an event that I attended today. It's part of the Goodman Theater's GeNarrations program, and according to their website, it's a free storytelling program that engages adults aged 55 and older in writing and performance workshops that nurture the creative spirit. Over a 7-week session, participants create and share short personal narrative stories inspired by productions on the Goodman stage. This cohort was invited to attend Goodman's current production of Betrayal, starring Helen Hunt, which incidentally runs through March 30th. Then GeNarrations participants were encouraged to write their own story based on themes of lies and betrayal. The group takes place online via Zoom as well as in person at several locations around the city. I just returned from a reading of participants from the Wille Whyte Park location on the 1600 block of Howard Street in Rogers Park. The Park District Activity Room was filled with about 50 mostly senior-aged people, the majority of whom were women. But that's to be expected, as it was an afternoon event and the program is geared towards those 55 plus. On the very border of Evanston, the group seems to draw from the immediate area as well as the suburban North Shore. I was able to chat a minute with Anne Murray, a lovely woman with a lilting Scottish accent who was on hand as an audience member for this participation, but as a participant in another GeNarrations group at another location. So just tell me first, tell me your name and spell it for me so that I just have that recorded.
My name is Anne Murray, ANNMURRAY.
So tell me about your participation in this class. Just how did you get involved, and tell me whatever you want to tell me about it.
I got involved because a dear friend of mine, whose story is coming up in the second half, Mary O'Connell. She's been in the program for a number of years, and she talked to me about it, and the talking got slightly more encouraging and insistent. So I signed up.
Great. And how long have you been a member? How long?
This is my first GeNarrations.
First GeNarrations. Okay. And how many stories have you written already yourself?
Just one.
Oh, okay.
The
good.
one I'll be presenting tomorrow morning, the Goodman.
Okay. And tell me what happens at the class, and what do you learn, and how often does it meet, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we meet once a week for a couple of hours. I'm not sure how this class was organized, but probably the same. Our class, we started discussing different meanings of betrayal, what betrayal could mean. Betrayal of country, betrayal of one's emotions, your face, betraying you, sort of thing, as well as the big obvious meaning of betrayal. And then we started writing. We had an initial read-through of how far we got in the second class. The third class we broke into small groups and we commented on each other's stories, which I found invaluable, because something that seems perfectly clear to me, they would say, I was a bit confused by... Then another time we discussed Pinter's play of Betrayal, and that was a bit humiliating for me because I was the only one in the class who liked it. Because I love the movie.
So you discussed the play, and then were given this theme in order to sort of, as a continuation of your experience with that play.
Yes,
is that right?
Part of GeNarrations program is that you are given free tickets to see whatever play they have selected for your theme for that class. And that just happened to be they selected Pinter's play.
Right.
So they gave us tickets to see the play, and then we discussed it in class. So everybody in the class had seen it.
I was invited to attend this event by Eva McCann, a childhood friend of mine, who's a participant in the program. As children, Eva and I had attended the Jack and Jill Players Theater School for Children in downtown Chicago. I couldn't stay for the entire program, but stayed until the intermission. Here's the introduction to the program by a nice young man named Liam, who is the official group leader.
This session, they shook things up, and instead they sent us a question. And that question is, what makes us lie? And this was inspired by the play Betrayal on the Goodman stages, right? So Wille started off with that question, and then our stories went in radically different directions. Right? And so you're going to hear some stories today that are very funny. You're going to hear some stories today that are deeply moving. You're going to hear many stories that are a mix of those, right? You're going to hear stories of childhood, stories that things people are going through right now, right? And I'm really glad you get to hear them, because one of the great joys of my life is getting to hear these stories. And so I always love when we can share them with other people, because it's your audience, and this is theater, right? So, just so we can hear those stories without any interruptions, let's go ahead and silence our cell phone. Excellent. So the entire performance today runs about 2 hours. That includes an intermission where we can stock back up on snacks and stretch our legs. But I don't know, you didn't come here to hear from me, you came here to hear some stories. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our very first story today comes from Mary Chase Zola, and it is called Medical Deception. Come on up, Mary.
I'd like to talk to you about medical lies. Both lies we tell our healthcare providers and lies they tell us. A topic about which I can speak with some authority as both the regular recipient of healthcare services and a nurse.
After Medical Deception by Mary Chase Zola, who talked about her personal and professional experiences with deception within the medical community, Marcia Kittler talked about her experiences in the workplace that were not as pro-woman as promised. In her story, They Say No Good Deeds Go Unpunished, Nancy Greenman recounted how a small untruth intended to protect a friend turned into a scary personal experience for her. Joanne Washington shared an emotional story of her experience returning from the orphanage where she lived to visit her birth mother in Mother-Daughter Relations. Andy Solomon shared a humorous tale of going with his father to get a library card and how later in life he used his deceased mother's library card for several years rather than get one for himself. My friend Eva McCann weaved an intriguing and somewhat mysterious story of her loving relationship with the moon that changed on account of a deceit perpetrated by a coworker that resulted in a change of her working schedule.
Our next one comes from Eva McCann, and it is called 4:18 a.m. Come on up.
As darkness still veiled the earth and stars speckled the sky, you patiently waited outside my house almost every morning to accompany me to work at 4:18 a.m. when the birds and the trees serenaded our togetherness. Dear moon, how I love you so.
The Goodman writing program, they have locations both at the Goodman Theater and the Alice, which is their educational center, and they have, I think, 15 or 16 other sites outside of the Goodman Theater. And back in 2018 is when the Wille Whyte Park Advisory Council approached the Goodman Theater and asked them if they would bring the program here to Wille Whyte Park. So all of the stories are based on a theme. We go to the Goodman Theater and we see a play, and they pick a theme from the play, and that is what we tell our stories about. And as Liam had mentioned at the beginning, the stories go in all different directions. I don't know if you're familiar with Harold Pinter's play Betrayal, but it's about relationships and cheating on your husband and wife and all of this. And as you can see, the stories don't really have a whole lot to do with what was going on with the play, but the question that was put to us as writers and storytellers was what makes us lie.
So how did you feel the tone of your story is so much different than everyone else's? How do you account for that?
Well,
Your style. Talk about your style a little bit.
well, this particular story, not all of my stories deal with mythology, and one of the things that I did miss, however, is the fact that I did have to get up so early in the morning, and the moon would still be out most of the time when I would go to work, and I enjoyed watching the moon. In fact, just recently on my cell phone, I deleted like over 1,000 pictures of the moon that I had taken. But anyway.
So that was part of your inspiration.
It was.
Okay.
It totally was.
So tell me, how often does this program meet? Where does it meet? And then how long is it, and all that kind of stuff?
It is a 6-week program, with week 7 giving a presentation as we're doing today, and then one person from each class is selected by the rest of the members in the class to represent the class downtown at the Goodman Theater, which will be March 31st. So you will have like all of the different 15 sites down at the Goodman, with one representative from each site, and they will be telling a story.
And that's March 31st.
That is March 31st.
So good. So from a practical
Goodman
standpoint on my podcast here, we can encourage people to go where on March 31st to see this?
To the Goodman Theater, the Alice Education Center on the 2nd floor, and they can see stories by storytellers from all over the city, as well as downtown at the Goodman. There are classes at the Goodman as well as online classes too.
To recap, Goodman Theater's GeNarrations program is a free storytelling program that engages adults age 55 and over in writing and performance workshops that nurture the creative spirit. There will be a special presentation of selected readings on March 31st at the Goodman Theater. Registration for the Spring 2025 session will open on April 14th, 2025 at 10 a.m. The sessions will begin the week of April 28th. To find more details and to learn more about Goodman Theater's GeNarrations program, visit goodmantheater.org. This is Reno Lovison, executive producer at ChicagoBroadcastingNetwork.com, encouraging you to please subscribe to our podcast at our website or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. I'd like to take a minute to mention one of our new subscribers, Joy Laverty, a native Chicagoan, best-selling Amazon author, and subject matter expert on aging alone and family caregiving. Visit elderindustry.com, where you can find her elder care planner and more. Also look for The Premiere, a new feature-length comedy written and directed by John Silver about a young filmmaker who manages countless challenges at his first movie premiere, including high expectations, celebrity appearances, and paranoid delusions projected onto the screen. Find out more about that at showpup.com/the-premiere. I'll put links to everything on our website at ChicagoBroadcastingNetwork.com. If you haven't heard them already, be sure to look for our podcasts on the review of Guys and Dolls in Skokie, La Boheme at the Lyric Opera in Chicago, and The Winter's Tale, playing now at Invictus Theater.